Okay, you can take it away.
Okay, great. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jeanne Grosso. I'm coming to you live from Honolulu, Hawaii. And today we have a special guest and we're going to do an interview, very impromptu. I have no questions lined up, just off the top of my head. We're going to do an interview of Kagwiria, and she is currently in Atlanta, Georgia, and she also resides in Kenya. So she has two residents, two businesses, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her history, what brought her to Bitclub a few years ago, and what we can learn from you. So why don't we just start there, where you just take it away and explain to everyone a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Jeanne. Again, my name is Kagwiria, Mworia, and Jeanne is right. I started the business when I was in Kenya 2 years ago in 2016. And when I got first started with the business, I knew there was two aspects. I could come in as an investor, or I could come on as, Jeanne, let me mute you for just a second. There's some background noise. Okay, so when I came on, I knew that I could either do it as a business, or I could come on and there was some background noise, so I just muted everybody. Okay, without really, well, at the time I didn't really understand much about Bitcoin, and so I decided to take a backseat and just be an investor. And then a few months later, just seeing the growth of my investment, that is when I really started paying attention to the networking side of things. So I would like to say in January of last year is when I actively got started with the business, and I was still in Kenya at the time. So for me, I normally, being bicontinental, I spent 6 months in Africa and 6 months in the US. And that has been, it's been great, but the two markets, they're completely different. And that is because, you know, the disposable income in Africa may not be as high as it is, you know, in the Western world. And so while the business was also doing well there, most of the investors that I would get would only be able to afford, you know, the lower levels of investments, basically the pool ones and all that. But that is still a great place to start, because I have many friends, some of my quote unquote uplines, I don't like to use that word, but some of my seniors, my uplines in the business, they have done very well, even with just an initial investment of $500. Actually, Sean and I met in Iceland the first time in November. And Sean, I don't know if you remember my colleague Raymond, who was there. He actually, literally, he borrowed $2,100 just to get started. See, in Kenya, it's a little bit different. You know, the rate is a little bit higher just because we have to convert Kenyan shillings to US dollar to get Bitcoins. And so for us, a $600 pool, you know, the 99 plus the $500, for you to actually get Bitcoins worth that much, it's a $700 investment. And Raymond actually always attests to the fact that he borrowed his initial $2,100. I had to do the quick conversion in my head from shillings to dollars. He actually had to borrow the first $2,100 just to get started with his 3 accounts. But today he is a mega monster in the business and has made well over $1 million. Okay, Connie, yes, it's around 700 in Australia as well. So yes, I guess, you know, every different markets, you know, we have a few challenges here and there. But, you know, what Jeanne and I have been discussing is that we need to let, you know, sometimes when our mentor, Ricardo, comes on the line, he often likes to emphasize on the larger investments, but really, even at the low investments, guys, we can make a lot of money. I initially started with 7 pools. I initially got accounts for all my family members. So basically, I got the top tripod, I guess, but with 7 accounts, and then grew my business from there. But I can tell you for sure, my business has pretty much really taken off over the last 6 months or so. since I joined Ricardo's team, just because he has really amazing tools that I did not have access to when I still have that other account and still active, and I have some team members still working actively under it. But what I'm mostly focused on now is my new accounts that I have in Ricardo's team, and that has made pretty significant growth over the last 6 months. So I hope that gives you a little background. I'm open taking questions. Jeanne, I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Okay, so who introduced you to Bitclub?
It was a lady by the name of Pauline. She was the second person in Africa to join Bitclub. The first person was a lady in South Africa, and she knew of Pauline. They were both in another company together, and both had achieved amazing success in that company. And so when the lady from South Africa heard about Bitclub, she actually came across Bitclub from a YouTube video from one of our clients. Sean, you may remember possibly, I was hanging out with some Malaysians when we were in Iceland, and one of the gentlemen in that group just made a random video on YouTube in Malay, in their local language. But the interesting thing is that through that hour-long video, she could just see the sincerity in him. Like, he just seemed very genuine. And so she reached out to him. He couldn't even speak English, but she reached out to him in the comment section of the video and said, I have heard about Bitclub Network. I have spoken to a few other people, and she had already spoken to a few other people, but no one who really connected with her. But she saw Moha on that video, and she reached out to him on the comment section. He saw that message. He just saw something about join in Africa. He got somebody to translate that message, and she joined the team. And interestingly, because Moha, that gentleman, was so keen on growing a team in Africa, he started taking English lessons just so that he can help grow his team. And now he's fluent in the language. Actually, one of these days, probably over the next couple of weeks or so, I will be doing a live with him, probably on Facebook. Of course, I'll let you all know when that will be going down. Unmute you. Jimmy?
Well, that's pretty fascinating. Do you remember what she actually said to you about 2 years ago to introduce you to Bitclub? Because I think there's a lot of people, and they know so much or not enough, or they think they don't know anything, and they're having a hard time introducing it to people.
Okay, so even prior to me meeting Pauline, I was already familiar with Bitcoin. I had first heard about Bitcoin in 2012 through another friend of mine here in the US. So I was born and raised in Kenya, but I came to the US as a teenager. Actually, yesterday was my 21-year anniversary in the US. So most of my life has actually been in the US, but when 3 years ago, I decided to leave my job, basically seek self-employment. And so I moved to Kenya to start a company there. So I had heard about Bitcoin 4 years prior to that in 2012. And at that point in time, I remember Bitcoin being $43, but I didn't understand what Bitcoin was. And at that time, it really had a black eye. Most people were associating Bitcoin with the dark web, drugs and weapons and terrorism, So I didn't see why I should invest in Bitcoin because I was not involved in any of those, industries or whatever. So I dismissed it. Then when I was in Kenya, because the company that I started there is, because it's still in existence, it's an import-export company dealing with health and beauty products. For me, for that company, I have to export health and beauty products from the US to Kenya. But moving money, especially when you're moving it internationally across borders, is just really expensive because you either have to use platforms like Western Union or MoneyGram or Swift transfers. So it was really, really expensive. And, I went online and tried to do some kind of just rough research on what it would take for me to pay my vendors in a more efficient way that was just not costing so much money. And that is how I came across Bitcoin again. And at that point in time, believe it or not, Bitcoin was no longer $43. Bitcoin was at $553 on that day. So, it just caught me off guard, and I decided I don't even understand or even know what Bitcoin is, but I knew I had to get my hands on some Bitcoin. So I took some money, went ahead and bought several Bitcoins. And so I started researching what Bitcoin really was. Like, what was the technology? What was causing the value of Bitcoin to, expound as much as it had? And then that's when I came across a forum, and they were talking about Bitclub network and mining. Mining had never, I didn't understand what mining was, because, the mining that most of us know of when we think of mining, or when we hear the term mining, is, actually digging into the ground, excavating, and getting, precious metals or minerals. That's what I knew. And I'm thinking, how do you mine a digital asset? How does that even work? So that's when I got introduced to Bitclub. Then I reached out to Pauline on that forum. We met for coffee, and then she explained to me what Bitcoin mining was. And, that's when I got involved. I knew I just had to get involved, but I still wasn't seeing the bigger picture, making more money as far as doing the networking. I had never been a networker in my life. I've never done marketing, so all that was new to me. But I'm glad I eventually saw the light.
Wow. So can you share some of the stories that you were telling me about how the people in Africa built their business and where they went?
So in Africa, for those of us who've grown or are growing the business in Africa, it actually, well, let me speak about Kenya because that's what I'm familiar with. Although it's pretty much the same, across the board, across Africa. Really, it's a very, I like to call it like I call it a grassroots movement. Literally, people are meeting in people's living rooms. And sometimes I even have pictures on my old phone where we are in meetings in people's living rooms. We're all like crumped up together around a kitchen table because getting some of these hotel rooms and meeting rooms is just really, really expensive. But, one thing about Africans I would like to say is that we almost believe in anything that will tend to bring us money. And unfortunately, that is why a lot of pyramid schemes really thrive in Africa. Unfortunately, a lot of Africans have lost a lot of money in pyramid schemes, and they still continue to invest because they just see this as something that will bring them money. Now, that is initially what people thought the Bitclub was, but as we continue to grow, and then we started interacting with people like Russ would come to Kenya almost every 6 months. And he would hold meetings with us. Now, of course, we grew from people's living rooms into hotel rooms, conference rooms, and all that. Matter of fact, Pauline always shares this story. Pauline got started in November of 2015. Actually, November 27th. I'll never forget that day because she always says it in presentations.
She's probably a mega monster now, right?
Oh yeah, she has about 5 accounts that are mega monster. And
wow.
Pauline at this point in time, on a very, very bad day, probably makes around $20,000 on a very bad day.
Per day.
Per day. I was speaking to her. Pauline and I are still very, very close. And she got a group from, I forget what country it is. I think Zimbabwe or something. And she got a big group of investors. And each one of those investors came on with 200 founder accounts. I think it was like an investment club of 20, high net worth individuals. They all came on with 200 founder pools. And just from her commissions on, of course she had to stagger them because you don't want to leave all that money on the table. She had to scatter them across, had 5 different accounts, but she made about $30,000 just in direct commissions. That's not even the binary. That's not, she makes a lot of money, but she's still as humble as could be. But when she first got started, Again, she started in November of 2015. And thankfully, okay, Pauline has had some success in her day. She was with another company prior to that, and she was already making very good money. And so when she first got started, she would contract out a conference room, just a small conference room in a hotel room. And for 4 months, every Saturday, she would pay $150 every Saturday for 4 months, from December, actually 5 months, from December until April. And guess what? Until April, not a single person walked through the door, but she was persistent enough. Every Saturday, she would still get that room. And, you know, she always tells the story how, you know, when you get the room, it comes with refreshments. They serve tea, you know, Kenyans drink a lot of tea. They would bring, you know, big flasks of tea and cookies and, you know, pastries, and not a single person would walk through the room. Eventually, the second week of April, her sister brought two of her friends with her. Can you imagine? After 5 months paying $150 every single week, eventually her own sister brings in her two friends. Her two friends were so amazed at, you know, what Bitclub can do and the opportunity, and then they started bringing their friends. And today we actually have an office in Kenya. We got a big old office. It sits 150 people in the meeting, you know, in the conference room. But we have just grown from really, really humble beginnings. And today, you know, Pauline is very happy. She pretty much makes up what she spent over that 5 months in a day. You know, that $150 times 5 months. Yeah, really humble beginnings, but it really started as a grassroots movement, but it has grown to what it is today.
Well, that is so inspiring to me. And what I get out of it is she was completely focused on Bitclub. She wasn't promoting other companies or anything else, correct?
Consistent. She left the other company, and she saw the vision in Bitclub. She saw the bigger picture, what could become of Bitclub. And today she is the second highest person in the entire continent of Africa, making a killing every single day. And, you know, she tells me that she's only working until December 31st, 2019, and she will retire for life. She's already made a couple $1 million off of Bitclub, and she's continuing to really pound the pavement hard.
Wow, that's really impressive. What made you decide then to join our team, No Limits, with Ricardo? How did you meet Ricardo, and how did that come about?
Ricardo and I met on Facebook, actually. He had seen a couple of videos. I have a few YouTube videos out there, and he came across a video, and so he reached out to me. And, you know, he showed me some of the tools that he had already started putting together, and he just asked me if I wanted to join his team. And, you know, seeing the kind of tools that he had, I love Pauline to death, but, you know, we don't have those kind of tools. And here it's a different market than, you know, what it is in Kenya. I can't grow, you know, I have to be really on the ground for me to really, really focus on my Kenyan team. Just because, you know, we need that, you know, chest to chest kind of, you know, interaction. So I didn't really have the tools that I needed to grow my business when I was in the US. And so when Ricardo and I met up, to me, it just seemed like the most logical move for me to make. Just because if I had prospects here, if I had questions, I could call Ricardo. We are, you know, well, we're only 3 hours apart, but we're not 8 hours apart as we are in Kenya. And, you know, he had the tools, he had the PowerPoints, and, you know, he had all that going. And that's the reason why I chose to start a new team and start a new business in No Limit.
So in the past few years, you've attended how many Bitclub events? And can you tell us about those?
You mean the general Bitclub events?
Yes, anything, whether the tour to Iceland or any other events that you went to that was Bitclub related.
So in Kenya, I've attended several. And like I mentioned, see, when we got started with Bitclub, even when I got started with Bitclub in July of 2016, Bitclub only had around 15,000 members worldwide, right? So it was still a very small community. It was still very simple and very easy for us to have that, one-on-one interaction with Russ or some of the really high, the guys up there. So they would come to Kenya, every few months. I think Russ has been to Kenya about 4 or 5 times, and I've attended those meetings. But the very first really big event Bitclub had was in June of last year, and that was in Dubai. I wanted to go, but unfortunately, so they came out with a date a little bit later. Well, it was somewhat of a short notice, and I had already planned vacation with my mother in Asia. The tickets were bought and all that, so I was unable to go to Dubai. And then right after Dubai, they went instantly to Iceland, and so I missed those 2 trips. But thereafter, they had the invitation to Iceland in November, of which I went to. Sean was there too. And then, and there was a big team from Malaysia, from South Korea, Japan, a few European countries. You know what, Sean, I'll also unmute you just so that you can share a little bit about your experience, because Sean has been in the business. Unmute? Are you? Okay. Yeah. Sean has been in business well over a year now too. Yes, those are the 2 events. Well, November, I went to Iceland, which is the time that I met Sean. And then in February, I went to Iceland as well. And again, met Sean and his beautiful fiance, Nadine, and met Ricardo as well, and a few of our other team members. Met Marie as well.
Yeah, well, listen, thanks for letting me talk a little bit here. That's an amazing story, and I believe I met her in Iceland. What is her name, the Mega Monster builder again?
Pauline. Yeah.
Pauline, yeah, she's a sweetheart.
You did meet her.
Yeah, I met her. Yeah, I got to shake her hand. A very great story. When you talked about it, I was very inspired when I heard about that. So,
and
very humble, yeah. But for those on the call, for those of you watching the recording, yes, my name is Sean Lynch. I'm from Montreal, Canada. And Jeanne, nice to meet you in person finally. Kagwiria, you're awesome. And, it's a great opportunity for people to get involved in Bitcoin and this cryptocurrency space. If you're new to it, it'll allow you to educate yourself about it. It's definitely something you don't want to be overlooking. There's a lot going on in the world right now regarding Bitcoin and these decentralized technologies. So you really don't want to overlook them. You want to be educating yourself. And that's what I did last year. When I found out about Bitcoin in December of 2016, it was roughly sitting around $1,000. I started, looking into videos on YouTube. YouTube is the best educational platform out there outside of schools and stuff, right? That you don't really learn this stuff in schools or at work. No one's really talking about this. It's really, you got to go find the information. There's a lot of people out there sharing the knowledge. So I started watching hours and hours of videos every single week. And then I got it. I was like, wow, this is great. Learning about these decentralized technologies led me to start investigating how our current monetary system works and how I believe it's really flawed. And so now here I am taking action, and I was able to quit my job in February of 2017 after putting in a year's work of getting involved in cryptocurrency, collecting it, trading it, and mining it with the Bitclub network. So Bitclub network allows the little person to get into Bitcoin mining because it's a very competitive business. Once you start looking into how Bitcoin is mined, you're going to realize that you need a lot of capital to buy this machinery, which you basically need to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's not just like plugging into a wall and it works, right? I mean, you really have to bring in power lines, transformers. Like, we're talking about a lot of megawatts of power here, talking about huge data centers at very large scales. So it's really not something that the little person can do these days. So Bitclub Network allows everybody to get in to build these big data centers in many locations in the world, and we get to benefit from it as long as Bitcoin and these blockchains need to be secured. The best analogy I have to give to people is it's like Visa. If you would invested in Visa's data centers back in the 90s, having the vision that, hey, Visa is going to be the payment system that everybody in the world uses, well, then you can start profiting every single day from a tiny percentage of all the transaction fees that are collected every day when consumers use their cards down at the stores. So if you have the vision that Bitcoin and these decentralized currencies are going to be used in the future, well, if you take the time to help build the infrastructure, these data centers that are going to be securing these payment channels for many, many years to come, and it's an opportunity to profit and create long-term generational residual income for yourself and your family. So I'm very excited to be here. And what's really given me my passion, my belief that this is something real, something tangible. We have an actual product, right? So we're not selling smoke. We're actually investing in real, tangible hardware that you can touch. You can actually visit the data centers if you want to. So I've gone twice to Iceland to take a tour of one of our facilities there. And then you have the track record over 4 years now that we've been growing this data center. I've created timelines, using the data that I've collected to see the growth of this pool. Start from nothing to where we are today. So a lot of good people, met a lot of very talented and smart individuals like Kagwiria, and it's very exciting. I'm really looking forward to how this year is going to roll out and into 2019.
Wow, Sean, thank you so much. I invited you so last minute. I wasn't even planning on you speaking, but I am so grateful that you were able to. For those on the line that don't know Sean, I've only been in Bitclub. Ricardo and I started 8 months ago. So what we have here on the line is Kagwiria, who's been in Bitclub for nearly 2 years. And Sean has been in Bitclub since 2016, also for nearly 2 years. So what I was hoping everyone would get on this line is some more validation for people that have been in Bitclub, for much, double the amount of time that Ricardo and myself have been involved, and they can shed some light. The other question I maybe either one of you can take is, since I started in August, okay, when I started, there was about 200 to 300,000 recorded customers or accounts. I'm not really sure. When Kagwiria and Sean started, I think it was only like 5 figures of people, correct? I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely. When I got started, it was at about 15,000.
15,000.
Accounts.
So it was at least 200,000. I just can't remember if it was 200 or 300 when I got started in August. And now we're being told that there's over 1 million members or 1 million member accounts. Okay. So what has happened in the last few months is an exponential growth that the company, can barely keep up with. So the question I keep getting from people is in the mining and, in our back office, those who have been mining more than 2-3 months, they're not seeing such accurate results like we used to see up until 3 months ago. So can either you, Kagwiria and Sean, maybe just touch on that for our guests?
You mean as far as the Bitcoin mining?
Yes.
The mining earnings?
Well, in the back office, or maybe Sean, because Sean and I have talked a lot about this, and people, they want to see what we're making. And up until about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I had no problem, bringing someone right to my account and show them, what the mining is producing every single day, what it amounts to, that kind of thing. And I figured it out in percentages to give people a range of this is what you're doing. But because the display is not showing, and it might be up tomorrow, it might show up tomorrow. So I was hoping that maybe one of you could speak on the fact of this exponential growth that they've had and what they're doing to display this growth and how it's affected our viewing of what it's doing. It appears once we mute ourselves, Kagwiria, it seems stay on mute.
Yeah, she has the power to keep us
Yeah.
silent. So yeah, it's a very good
okay. Go ahead.
observation, and I can explain it. So let's break. We're talking about thousands and thousands of members or accounts right now. So let's tone it down to, let's say, maybe 10 accounts. So imagine you and 9 friends got together and said, you know what, I want to start mining some Bitcoins. We know we need to buy some hardware. We have to set it up in a warehouse somewhere, pay a monthly electricity bill. And once it's all set up and running, those machines will be securing the transactions, and hopefully we'll get some Bitcoins at the end of the month based on luck, right? So based on how competitive we are with the other miners out in the world, right? Because it's a global opportunity. So you and your 10 friends, you go out there, you invest $100,000, you all put in $10,000 each, you buy some hardware, you hook it up, now you start mining some Bitcoin. And let's say, just to keep the numbers simple, you're mining you're mining 10 Bitcoins a month. Okay, so your equipment manages to hit enough blocks so that you're bringing in 10 Bitcoins every single month. So you decide to distribute those 10 Bitcoins amongst your 10 members. So each member gets 1 Bitcoin every single month. Now that is going to continue each and every month until you get outperformed by your competitors. Because as more and more miners join the network, the difficulty of the equations gets more difficult. So it gets harder and harder for you to hit the same amount of blocks you did last month because of many factors. There's more people getting onto the network. People are buying more technology that's more efficient than you, right? Because just like your iPhone upgrades every year, the iPhone 4 to the iPhone 5 to the iPhone 6, there's tiny upgrades to the processors. They're more efficient. They work faster. They cost less electricity. So you become more profitable by upgrading your hardware. So if you're mining Bitcoin and you're not reinvesting back into your business to upgrade your machines or adding more machines, eventually your mining pool is just going to start not producing enough Bitcoin to be profitable, and that's it. So you and your 10 friends, you guys made a profit for maybe 5 to 6 months, but now party's over, you shut down the warehouse and you go home with your profits. But Bitclub Network has been expanding for the last 4 years by bringing in new people, right? Sharing this opportunity through a word-to-mouth opportunity so that we don't have to spend millions of dollars advertising on TV, radio ads, billboard ads. We're using the word-to-mouth methods to save so that more money can be used to pay commissions for us, the business owners, right? And we also use a portion of the Bitcoins that we mine to continue building the pool through the automatic repurchases. So now what's happened in the last 3 months is, from December to January, Bitcoin hit its all-time high of nearly $20,000. So back last year during Thanksgiving, everybody, taxi cabs, grandmothers, everybody was talking about Bitcoin because it was all over the media because of the price. And because everyone was now interested in Bitcoin, they started investigating. If you went to Google Trends and looked at Bitcoin searches were through the roof. So people were running into mining pools, learning about Bitclub, more receptive to this information, right? Sitting down with somebody talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining when the price is significant, people will actually take the time to listen and do some research. Whereas if you're telling somebody to invest, $10,000 in machines that's going to produce Bitcoins that are not used anywhere and that are worth $1, it takes someone with great vision to invest $10,000 to mine Bitcoins because they know the future is going to make the value go up. So all said, now why am I saying this is because in December, January, it got very, very explosive. A lot of people wanted to join Bitclub Network because they were receptive to this information. And so a lot of people bought their shares, which dilutes the pool a little bit because now we have $200 million worth of equipment that we need to deploy that we're still trying to deploy. So, we need these big facilities. We had one in Montana being put up, but that didn't really work out. So we're now facing a real business problem. Whereas, hey, we've got $200 million worth of ant miners sitting in a warehouse somewhere, which we need to deploy. We need electricity for it. So, you need a warehouse with good electricity prices and stuff. So that's what's being worked out right now. So when Jeanne says, the mining earnings aren't quite reflective today like they were 6 months ago, well, that's because of an explosive growth in a very short period of time. So we're kind of playing catch up. And also, there's so many transactions in the back office of Bitclub Network. I mean, there's so many commissions being paid out each and every day. Everybody gets a little piece of the mining earnings. everybody's using those earnings, perhaps maybe to do partial repurchases, so commissions are being paid out. Then there's a binary. So it's thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions of data being created and stored. And you have to store that data, right? You need data centers just to store the data of your business. So our data centers were getting overloaded for the amount of transactions we were producing on a daily basis. So to prevent the whole server just to shut down, they took some historical data offline. So some members who've been around for 3-4 years, their historical data from like 2014 and 15 was taken offline. So some of their earnings kind of like disappeared, but their money didn't disappear. It's just your historical data, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you made 3 Bitcoin in 3 years and now it says you made 1 Bitcoin in 3 years. It doesn't matter. It's just a number in a back office. It doesn't affect your active shares, your payouts, or the actual money that's sitting in your wallet. It's just historical data was taken offline, and now it's slowly being introduced back online. I see my numbers starting to come back up, and that should be resolved very soon. I mean, I know the website is going to be completely revamped within the next 2 or 3 weeks here. I believe by the end of May, we should be rocking and rolling again. New website, new marketing tools. We've got the Consensus 2018 being on May 17th, which is, a conference with like 7,000 guests all around cryptocurrency with big speakers. So a really good event there for people to discuss crypto and, the future of it. And, that's going to bring some good news to this space, and we should see people starting to get involved again. Prices start to rally, prices will start going up again. People get more involved, and it's going to snowball, and then maybe it might crash a little bit again. So it's always like an up and down roller coaster, right? So there's going to be periods of high earnings, low earnings, high earnings, low earnings, and it's always going to be a roller coaster. It's never going to be a straight line. So that's my spiel on that is if you're expecting to join Bitclub Network and make a fixed 10% a month or 1% a month, that doesn't exist, right? We're in an industry where we're in a competition to be more performing than outperform our competitors by mining, by having the biggest data centers to mine Bitcoin, securing the blockchain, and there's going to be ups and downs, for the next, it's never going to be a straight line. So it's a
good problem to have, actually. Yeah. I'm just so excited that, I was offered this opportunity. If I didn't know Ricardo, I had been working with Ricardo for about 1.5 years in a couple other businesses before he even found this. And I know the research that he does. There's a lot of people on the line that aren't a professional networker, have never done a direct selling company or online business. And I have never done one successfully. So until I met Ricardo, I'm a former massage therapist and skincare esthetician. I owned and operated a wellness center. So I knew nothing of Bitcoin or mining or cryptocurrency or any of this 1 year ago. 1 year ago, I had no idea. So when I heard about this, the first thing I saw the vision. Immediately, I saw the vision of a peer-to-peer exchange of money. And I was so excited. I thought that alone, just the concept of Bitcoin and the blockchain was way beyond anything I'd ever had seen in my life. And then there's the fact that there is a crowdfunded referral program attached to this. There was nothing for me to think about. I didn't even research anything, quite frankly. I know how Ricardo researches everything to the nines. And after the previous company that we were both in, which was mining Ethereum, that was the first exposure to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency Ethereum. And that was this 1 year ago. It was May 15th, actually. 1 year ago, we were with another company. And we were selling machines like hotcakes. People were literally getting loans, and they were taking out like a loan or a line or something against their retirements, their IRAs. They were moving money over. And then 2 months into it, a mutual friend of ours who's in Bitclub, he tipped Ricardo off to the fact that they're saying they're mining 2 or 3 Ether a month. And that was like it was physically impossible on a $3,200 machine. And we couldn't believe it. But when we saw the data, we pulled the plug. We told our members to get a refund. I lost my money. I just went down with the ship. A lot of people believed us and got a refund, and some people didn't. And they lost their money. 4 months later, the company closed their website and said they were hacked. And so the key thing that I want anyone listening to this to know about what we have is, and I'm sure you guys can chime in and agree or not agree, but I'd say 95% of crypto businesses are Ponzi's, especially in America. Not everybody on the line here is even in America, but Ricardo and I learned the hard way, but thankfully it wasn't, too bad.
Yeah.
Kagwiria?
No, absolutely true. And actually in America, we have very few Ponzi's compared to, I'll even speak for Kenya. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone who has been in 4 different Ponzi's that ended up collapsing in Kenya, and they were all connected with digital currencies. Some saying they were mining, trading, betting, what have you. And she eventually realized she has lost money in 4 different businesses, and there's many, many more now that haven't even made it to America. People know that if you want to start a Ponzi, literally just go to the continent of Africa, because people are just looking for an opportunity to grow their money, and they will fall for anything, unfortunately. But with Bitclub, I'm sure some of the people on this call have seen the video that Ras did yesterday or the day before. And he was talking about some people who saw Bitclub to be Ponzi-ish 4 years ago. And, they invested their money. They didn't see the big returns that they were anticipating, that they may have seen with other Ponzi's. And, when they came back 4 years later, 3-4 years later, they had several Bitcoins on there that they were able to withdraw from. And now they are beating themselves up for having missed an opportunity to network this business. I think we are very lucky and blessed to be part of Bitclub in its early days, because we're seeing the company going through the growing pains, and we're there sticking with them. And I know Bitclub will be here for many, many years to come, and we shall continue seeing exponential growth as we have seen over the last 2 years that have been involved, and even the 2 years prior to that, because this year we get to celebrate our 4th anniversary. So just stick to it. My biggest regret is that I did not start pushing harder sooner. If I had, who knows where I would be now, but it's okay. It's not too late. We're still, in the early years, and, I just have to keep pounding at it. And I know all of you here are doing the same.
Does anyone have any questions that's on the line? Anything we didn't cover? I mean, we really covered a lot. I mean, I think that there's only this needs to be shown to every single person. It doesn't. I'm teaching my 8-year-old son. He already knows all about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, and he's already set up for life. And the reason why this is for everybody, because it's for an investor. So because people that are investors or people that have a lot of money, they don't know where to put it. And the highest return that they can get on a hands-off income is 20% a year. Okay, I mean, I've seen anywhere from 6 to 19% a month on some of my pools. When Bitcoin was 17,000. I used to sit there and do the math and the calculations, and my mining was only going on for 5-6 months, and I was seeing 19% on my money. So it didn't matter if it was $500 or $500,000. It's still, anywhere from, I started seeing 6% when I first got started, and it just started mining. And as Bitcoin, appreciated, and as the mining continued, I recorded it. I had all my own little pools recorded because I was so curious and fascinated with percentages, because that was how I retain this stuff. So, and if you don't have money, like you have a job or two or a business, I used to own a business and I didn't have any assets. I owned a home, I owned timeshares, I owned cars, but I didn't have anything that was an asset. And an asset is an income producing system. Okay, so I mean, I did have a retirement, an IRA, but what are we talking? 5-10% a year. So the opportunity to actually start from nothing and go from poverty, I truly believe it's everyone's best chance to either prevent poverty or get themselves out of poverty. I started with a $500 pool because that's all I had. But I fully intended on referring every single person I knew and I came across. And this is how I did it. I simply said, have you heard about Bitcoin? That's all I said. That's all I said. Have you heard about Bitcoin? Have you learned about Bitcoin yet? Back then, I barely knew what Bitcoin was. I sent them to Ricardo's presentations. I got them on the phone with someone else that knew more than me. But I believed. And in a matter of time, I funded, over 15 accounts. So I have, for the first time in probably my life, I actually own an asset with no debt. Yeah. So where can you do that? So isn't everybody telling every single person they know? I want to encourage everybody to just open up a conversation. Have you learned about Bitcoin yet? Because there is a learning process.
Very true.
And I find this the most simple business and investment. I don't know if we can legally call it an investment, but I invest in my health. I invest in my mental, my spiritual. So I'm investing in my future. And this is the first time that I'm convinced I have a legacy here, because I've been brainwashed in the MLM business before, thinking I'm building a legacy income. But the truth is, you have to buy auto ship every single month, and then you have to have other people that stay on their auto ship every month. And it doesn't happen. The prices of the products are too expensive. So in this one, you are going to get your products paid for just by the mining it does every day. So it could be 6 months, it could be a year before you pay off your product. That all depends on the price of Bitcoin, right? And the mining difficulty and so forth. But the longer people are waiting, they're going to miss it. So one thing that Russ said on that last video too that I was really impressed about was someone had asked him about the return. And when you look at purchasing a business, like I have a brother that actually purchased a franchise. He purchased the Domino's franchise years ago. So he basically spent, I think it was $100,000 of a loan because he didn't have $100,000. And I never did ask him, how long did it take you to actually pay off your $100,000 loan? And basically he bought himself a job. So he was even delivering pizzas himself, and he owned the shop when the manager or the boy didn't show up. So he eventually left that business years later, and now he's a general contractor. But I mean, I know for owning my own business, for the people that want to buy a business because they want to buy themselves an income or buy themselves a job, they're not going to find a return this quickly. So I don't know anything else on the market that can produce this, certainly not hands off. And even recently, we're getting a lot of traders coming in because they're tired of sitting at the computer all day long and doing the trading. And quite frankly, that's more of an addiction like gambling, because you can't help yourself. You're constantly looking at the price of the Bitcoin or making that trade or what have you. So I think personally, I believe this is even better than trading. Even though we have to stay diversified and we have to know how to do all these things, I just absolutely love Bitclub, and I love the fact that it's hands-off income, and that's the product that we're referring people to, and that's the product we're buying. So it's pretty simple, yeah? So should we wrap that up?
That was really good. There's a couple questions. I see John has raised his hand, but before we unmute you.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Kevin Dixon has a question, and his question is anyone using a marketing method from word of mouth, apart from word of mouth, and is it successful? I personally have been using some social media. I've been using LinkedIn, I've used Facebook, I am now using Instagram as well. And I've had a little traction on all, but probably most of my prospects have come to me from Facebook. Basically just putting up a post. A few months ago, I decided that I would start putting a post every single day. I haven't been as diligent over it over the last couple of months for some personal family reasons, but from Facebook, I have gotten most of my investors and now business partners. So anyone else? Sean and Jeanne?
Hey, no, that was great, guys. I mean, if there's no questions, just if you're on this call and you haven't pulled the plug or you're still questioning, if this is for you, just realize, like Jeanne said, we're selling a product that doesn't require an auto ship, because our product is actually, plugged into a wall, solving an equation, helping secure a new payment system that the world is slowly waking up to, and eventually we'll start using. Only 1% maybe of the world knows about Bitcoin and is using it. And as more and more institutional money comes in and more people start to transact with it or hold it as a store of value, I mean, the price is going to have to go up because there's a limited supply, right? There's 17 million Bitcoins that have been minted so far. About 4 million have lost forever. Those private keys have been lost from people mishandling their money in the early days when it wasn't worth anything. They didn't really care about it. So with that, the price is going to go up. So that's why you see a lot of price predictions. Is Bitcoin going to 50K? Is it going to 100K? If there's only 14 million Bitcoin in circulation, there's more than 14 million millionaires on the planet. So there's not enough Bitcoin, one whole units of it, for every millionaire in the world to have one Bitcoin. And, people, when they want Bitcoin, they're going to want multiples of it, right? 10, 20, 100 Bitcoin. So when people start scooping it up, it's going to be really hard to get. Now, thankfully, a Bitcoin is divisible into, a million pieces. So there's plenty of Satoshi. If you do the math, do 14 million times 100 million. That's a lot of units of Bitcoin that can be used for trade. But that's why the unit of a Bitcoin is going to go up if as a dollar amount, if you will. And so our product actually, produces Bitcoin, which is why there's no auto ship. So that's great. I mean, you don't have to pay $200 a month to buy products that you're going to put on a shelf that are going to expire or lose value. Those products that you buy every month are not making you any money. But these machines, once you've purchased them, they're creating wealth by securing this payment system. So very exciting opportunity, guys. Thank you very much for having me on, and we'll see you guys soon.
We just wanted to ask you a question.
Yep, sure.
There was a question about any other marketing that you do that's successful other than word of mouth.
Sure. And then David has a question. We'll let him ask. So my marketing, I mean, what's great about Bitcoin is what's awesome is that the product that we have and the technology, no one knows about it, right? So it's just being passionate about sharing that knowledge. Like Jeanne said, do you know about Bitcoin? Do you have a Bitcoin wallet? Would you like me to show you how to install one? It takes 2 seconds. And let me send you a couple dollars worth of Bitcoin. You'll see how this payment system works. And you can do this with anybody across the globe for free, pretty much. And nobody can stop you. And you don't have to go through a middleman like a bank, PayPal, Western Union. So that should be enough to get people curious to start doing their own research, right? Because then people are going to have to do some research, because it's a mindset shift, right? People are used to using banks. They're used to using Western Union. So you kind of have to go back into the 90s when email was introduced. Why would I use email when I have the postal service? Why would I go to Amazon and buy something when I can go to Toys R Us? Well, look at Toys R Us today, right? They're going bankrupt. So everything is moving digital. We're pretty much living in a digital age. The only thing that we can't do is transact financially or send value, or there's a few things we can't do on the internet because of security, right? We need trust, right? There needs to be a third party trust to transact on our behalf, which is why we have PayPals, we have Western Unions. But with these blockchain technologies, that trust can now be taken away from people and put into mathematics and in an algorithm that people can trust because it works, right? And if you want to know how the blockchain works, hey, you can go educate yourself, but don't worry too much about that. I'm sure you use the internet every day and you have no idea how your web browser works and how the encryption works and how everything stays safe and the protocols behind everything that runs the internet. I'm pretty sure you don't know anything about that. So it's not really important for you to understand everything about how a blockchain works, but it is interesting. It's new, so you might as well look into it. And so that's how you kind of get the word out. Social media is a great tool to connect with people, like Kagwiria said. YouTube, make a few videos. Once you learn about Bitcoin, once you've created a wallet, make it video. Say, hey guys, look, I just created a Bitcoin wallet. It took me 2 seconds. This is how I did it. Boom, post it, right? Or do that on social media sites, and then and then when you're out in the real world, talk about it. And you'll get a lot of people coming to you and asking you questions. And then you get them on calls, right? You get them on calls with people that know the business inside and out. So like Ricardo, right? If you guys are on his team, you invite your guests. You leverage your team. You leverage people that know more than you to give the information. And then once you get the hang of it, you can start doing your own calls.
Yeah, and that's all I did. My entire business is pretty much on Facebook, and I didn't post ads expecting people to come to me. I just opened up a chat. I literally went down my Facebook list and opened up a chat and say, hey, how you doing? How's it going? Because I am sincerely want to connect with you, or I'm going to delete you from my Facebook, because I don't get very much engagement with the new algorithms. People don't even see anything anyway. Something I've been doing for over a year is daily I see whose birthday it is, and I wish them a sincere birthday wish. Yeah, and 2 days ago, it opened up into a complete dialogue, not about Bitcoin, but an entire spiritual and a personal conversation. And to me, that's part of my purpose, is to connect with people, share value, and that's all I do. So sometimes it turns into a business and sometimes it doesn't. But at the right timing, I ask people, well, what are you into now? What are you doing? Are you still doing this business? What business are you in? Because I'm curious. And then my answer is always, have you heard about Bitcoin yet? And then it's simply like, yes or no, or I heard about it, but I don't really know anything about it. Meanwhile, I have been posting for a year on my Facebook here and there, and nobody's ever noticed. So you have to personally engage with people. I also went to a Bitcoin meetup in my area, and I started making friends with people, and I got numbers, and then I held a Bitcoin meetup at my place, and then I invited people to learn about Bitcoin mining. And believe it or not, that's what took off my business locally, is because I had one event at my place. And I basically had people show up that I didn't even know who they were. And then some people invited other people that were in the Bitcoin meetup. And I did do, back when you could do a little post on Facebook about Bitcoin. I don't know if you still can, but they block a lot of stuff. And I basically just put up an event, and I said, I'm having a Bitcoin educational webinar at my place. Who wants to attend? And it was that simple. And every single person joined, because we helped educate them. Now, I have a lot of people that are professional marketers, and they have funnels, and they have these websites, and they're affiliates, and they do all this stuff, and they keep asking me, how do I do this? You know, and I just say, listen, I don't know if funnels work. I have no idea. You're talking, I personally am going to open up a one-on-one with them because I'm not looking for a $500 pool. I'm looking for people to invest $50,000, $100,000. I'm looking them to invest their real estate money, their investment money. Okay. So I'm very selective on who I even talk to, because every time I try to open up a conversation about Bitcoin to someone who doesn't even have a job, who has no money, it's all in mindset. I don't even want to deal with those people. You know, I'm over the personal development, rah. I just want to do something that's facts. And, you know, this is simple. I don't know why people try to complicate it. You're buying a machine. It's literally a money-making machine. If you don't know about Bitcoin and blockchain, here's a ton of videos. They're on my site. They're in my email. Learn about it. Come back to me. Come join us on the live webinar, and let's go. So I personally do not believe in really advertising unless you're advertising for an event. And that's how I do that. Who else has a question?
John has a question. Let me unmute him. John, I think. And there's also another.
He looks like he's driving.
I think David also has a question. But let's first go to John. Yeah, he raised his hand a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to pipe up here and say you guys are all in your 40s or 30s or whatever. I'm in my 60s, and I go to these retirement webinars, and these guys that coach people in retirement, if they find 7 or 8, 10 max % for these people to grow their money in retirement, it is phenomenal. I mean, they don't preach that, but even that's a top. You guys don't realize what we got here for retired people like myself that are looking for something to grow, you know, and they got paid off houses. Like, you know, Jeanne says, you could take out a little HELOC against your house for, you know, $50,000, and man, you'd be set up for life. So I just want to let you guys know of a market that maybe you haven't even thought about. That to me, that's where I'm going to work on is these people that are retirement age, because there's absolutely nothing out there that can even nothing will compound. I don't care what it is. And you know, I got a group that's talking about IUL insurance policies. Well, okay, you go out and you buy a IUL insurance policy that it's capped at 12-14% per year. Yeah, you're not going to lose because there's a zero lose floor in it, but there's an example of you know, 14% I think is the highest IUL I've ever seen. So you can, you know, Jeanne's got the numbers, you can do that in a month, but nobody can compound. Even an IUL can't compound money like this. So I mean, I'm just telling you that you could be looking in your Facebook pictures or, you know, Facebook or whatever your marketing thing for people that are in their 60s, because we're all struggling. I mean, you got no idea. For example, I'm on Social Security, and I don't get raises because as soon as I get a raise in Social Security, Medicare eats it up. So I'm basically flatlined for life. So I have to look. You always talk about a three-legged stool in retirement. We used to have a company pension, which doesn't exist anymore. I don't even have one, and I got cut out twice on it. The other part of the three-legged stool is the 401k that they're preaching now, and your and your Social Security. And Social Security, it's peanuts. I've worked my butt off for 40 plus years, and I'm telling you, I'm getting 400 hours a week. And how many of you can live on 400 hours a week, and how long? So the other part of this three-legged stool we got right here in our hands. So go out and tell everybody we got the third leg to the three-legged stool that was taken away from us by the company pensions being taken away from us. There's my speech.
Awesome. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John. I hadn't even thought about that market?
It's huge. There's 10,000 new ones every day.
John, we can do lives right there. You gather the people and we'll do lives and explain the whole thing to them.
Well, that's where I'm going to go when I get my farming done. I'm going to start working on that stuff.
We're losing your mic.
Yeah, I'm probably too far away from my phone. All right, I'm signing off because I'm out in the boonies.
Okay, so maybe David has his question. He's been patiently waiting.
Yes, David. Let me you next. David, go ahead.
Yes.
Nice to meet you for the first
can you hear
time,
me?
David.
So let me first check, is my microphone working? Can everybody hear me?
We do hear you. Welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. My wife and I are indeed new to this. So basically I dropped in halfway this recording and I heard Sean say something that caught my interest right away. And he was talking about the explosive growth of the amount of members, and that this causes some problems into the company. But he also said that because more and more people are coming into Bitclub, the profits for everybody go down. So you have to keep reinvesting constantly. So this raises a question I have: what happens when there are too many members?
So good question. It's just right now in this month, right? So a lot of people have come in and we're still deploying that equipment. So if you go to our website, bitclubpool.com, you'll see that we're mining at around 500 petahash of hash rate, right? And we've got about 1,500 petahash of Antminers purchased, right? So pre-purchased, debt-free. We order from Bitmain and a bit from Bitfury. So there's only 2 manufacturers out there right now producing equipment. So that's what's causing the delays. I mean, there's not 10, 20 companies you can go to and buy Antminers right now. But in the near future, I've seen hints of Russ and Joe. I've seen in the last couple of videos. Don't take my word for it. This is not official news, but I'm pretty sure they're working on creating their own. We're going to be able to self-sustain and create our own hardware pretty soon. So that way, there's not going to be any of these big delays. So to your question, once the backlog gets installed, then we'll be rolling again. And eventually, we won't be able to sell shares forever, right? We're not going to cover the whole planet in Antminers. So eventually, that's why it's a narrow opportunity. Like eventually our data centers will be built. They'll be so large that will be like top 15, top 20% in the world of our own equipment. And we won't need to buy more equipment. We'll just self-sustain it using the repurchases. We'll start crowdfunding to lower electricity costs. Instead of buying Antminers to increase our hash rate, why not work on solutions to increase our electricity bill, right? Because the electricity bill is the biggest expense in this operation. If you can bring your electricity cost to zero, then you're more profitable at the end of the month, so you can continue to pay people out. So eventually we'll have enough data centers where now we're going to focus on lowering electricity costs. So we'll start, I don't know, maybe we'll start selling shares for raising solar power farms or something. You know what I mean? Like the Bitcoin miners of this world, the engineers are the ones who are going to find ways to bring power to zero, right? So there's going to be new innovative ideas coming out eventually, because like Bitcoin mining isn't about buying Antminers to infinity, right? So we will get big enough where we won't need new members, so you won't be able to sell shares anymore. But we'll have other projects, right? We'll grow our GPU farms, right? GPUs are very versatile. You can mine cryptocurrencies with them, like Ethereum, Monero, Zcash for now. Maybe next year there's a new GPU coin that comes out that's super profitable, that takes off, so we'll mine that coin. Or maybe something else more profitable comes along, like artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is super big right now. A lot of people are working on it, and people will need computing power to run that stuff. So just like how people go to Amazon to rent data server space to host their stuff, well, people can start renting our equipment because we'll have these houses and houses of GPUs, right? So we can rent off our equipment and make money by building these companies who want to use it for artificial intelligence, and then we can make money through that. We're also very bullish in the retail adoption, right? Like we can't have a cryptocurrency adoption if there's no ways for retailers to accept it in stores. So people are going to need payment platforms. So we've got CoinPay in the works, right? Bitclub has thought ahead here. For the last 2 years, they've been working with CoinPay. It's being test driven right now with a few stores. I think in Korea somewhere, they said that they're pulling in about $1 million a month, just fine with it. So when that's ready to be introduced to the world and marketed, then hey, we can start creating retail adoption by going to our local businesses and say, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept Ethereum for me to pay today? No, I don't. Why would I? Well, because it's irreversible, because there's lower fees, because you don't have to deal with MasterCard and Visa, wait 30 days for them to put money in your account. If someone pays you a Bitcoin today, your money's in your bank account the very next day. So there's so many advantages to skipping the middleman, and right? So then we'll create income through the retail adoption. And what's even more exciting is if there's retail adoption, then there's more demand for the coins, which means the price is going up, right? And we're mining it, we're holding on to it, we're first movers. So that's going to make us all filthy rich. So there's all these things that are connected, right? So we're not just mining Bitcoin, we're not just putting equipment to infinity, right? We have a vision. So that was a great question. I hope that's a good answer. Eventually, yeah, there will be no more shares to sell. They'll just be sold out.
Yeah. Okay. Then I have another question. So right now, as far as I understand, Bitcoin is like the #1 virtual currency, but a lot of people are also stepping into that right now. I've also heard that Ethereum is another currency that is very promising. Isn't it wiser to start right away with Ethereum mining while there are fewer people busy with that, instead of stepping into Bitclub network with Bitcoins that is already so crowded at this moment?
Well, I mean, I don't want what I said to scare you in terms of, it's just the explosive growth is just what the company is going through right now, but that's going to pass. I mean, these last 5 months, a year from now, people are just going to be like, hey, remember that time when people were complaining because, we went through growing pains? It can happen to any business, right? I mean, any business that's used to taking in 100 customers a month, but then, like you're selling shovels. I don't know, you're in a small town, you're selling shovels, you sell 10 shovels a month, but then the news comes out that there's gold under like 2 blocks down the street, tons of gold. Now you got to line up 10 blocks down, everyone wants shovels, and you can only produce 10 a month. You're going to have growing pains, right? You're going to have to find more suppliers to order more shovels. You'll need more staff. You'll need to, get bigger parking lots, whatever. You go through growing pains to accommodate the demand. So December and January, huge demand for Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining because of the price. I mean, most people got into Bitcoin just because of the price, right? People don't understand the technology. They don't research the payment channels that we have today, and the power that governments and centralized entities have, the Facebooks, the Googles, all these big monopolies that are creating the 1%, the elite in the world, keeping everybody down in the poverty line. There's no more middle class. So when people start to research and understand that's how the world works, that's when now they're in Bitcoin and mining for different reasons, and not just for a quick, let me ride this Bitcoin to 100K and be rich, right? It's more than that. So that's why I hope I didn't scare you with the fact that, we're just going through some growing pains right now, but, those will be resolved. Like I said, there'll be more manufacturers. I know Samsung's producing chips. We might produce chips. Finding facilities and making deals with people for electricity will become easier because we're so big, right? We're so huge that, there's not anybody can just go to Bitmain and say, hey, I want to buy $500 million worth of Antminers. Like Bitmain won't deal with these people, right? Because there's only so much that they can make. So we've got really good relationships with the manufacturers right now. So we're in a really good position to get the most equipment as possible at the cheapest price and just keep deploying it as fast as we can. So no other company can offer you that. You can try doing it on your own, but you won't be as successful as doing it with the company, right? So
yeah. Okay. And then what would be a really good website to learn more about Bitcoin and virtual currencies and Bitcoin mining?
Well, There's a few great videos just on the BitClub Network website, like what is Bitcoin, what is mining, and what's the opportunity. So those are very good introductional videos. And then after that, you can, add more knowledge. I know Jeanne and Kagwiria will probably vouch for people like Andreas Antonopoulos. He's a Bitcoin guru, if you will. He's been in this space since day one, and he just does Bitcoin education. He writes books. He does seminars all over the world to teach people about Bitcoin. So if you want one good place to start, I'll let the girls maybe give some suggestions, but I would definitely watch some Andreas Antonopoulos.
So, Andreas Antonopoulos. Okay.
Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel. Just find him on YouTube and literally just go back 6 months and watch all of his videos. Once you start watching a couple, you'll be hooked. I've watched them all.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Andreas is a good person to follow. I'm not sure if I got the spelling of his last name right, but if you just go to YouTube, you will easily find him.
Yeah. Okay. And Sean, who are you exactly in the Bitclub network?
Nobody. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just like Kagwiria and Jeanne. I'm a Bitcoin miner. I mean, BitClub Network allows you to create your own business around Bitcoin mining, right? Just like any word-to-mouth business, whereas you don't need to start up. So I'm just I'm someone who learned about BitClub Network last year because I was researching mining and I wanted to mine. Okay. And this is the only business that I could find on the blockchain and visit myself and touch the equipment. So I was like, okay, this is real. This is a real business. It's not one of those. So that's I'm an affiliate.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Let me see if I had another question here. Okay, I have some websites. All right.
He's actually being very modest.
Thank you very much.
I was gonna say Sean is actually being very modest. He has really understood the subject and can really articulate it very, very well. Sean also has a YouTube channel that you should watch. He's Sean Lynch, Ly. Actually, I'll type it in here too. But you can learn a lot from him too because he breaks down the information very well.
Yeah, there's a few.
All right. Yeah. Okay. And so we are about to start. We will probably invest about $8,000. What would be a really good setup to start? Somebody mentioned that it's important to go to team 4 as quickly as possible. So we would do then a machine of 3,500 and then 6 machines of 500. Is that a good idea? Is that a good setup to get a good profit in the next 2 years?
That definitely is. I don't know if you've watched any of Ricardo's videos when he is going through the clusters. It is, especially if you will be doing the business side of things, it would be good for you to get to Team 4 as soon as possible. One thing that Ricardo suggests is that you get your first account at $3,500, then get 8 accounts at $500, and then you can start growing from the 9th account, because from the 9th account that puts you in Team 4, and so the commissions are at 8% and up. Some of those videos are on I know Jeanne has posted them on the group, but if you'd like, I can also find where he has recorded it, and I can post it on the group just so that you can find it as well.
Yeah. Okay.
David, that answers that question.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's a video you just need to watch for yourself, and also consult your whoever your sponsor to help you figure out your cluster, especially if you'll be doing the business as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okie dokie. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? And Jeanne is back. I think she had dropped off. So Jeanne, let me go ahead and unmute you.
Oh, there I am. Okay, well, I wanted to thank everybody. In the groups, you can post any additional questions, and we're happy to get on Zoom with anyone live and help them, understand it better. Thank you, Kagwiria, for sharing your journey, and Sean for sharing some of your journey since you've been in Bitclub longer than I have. I thought that would be interesting for people to hear.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You know, yeah. Thanks for jumping in here. Short notice. This is totally off the cuff and not even planned. So sometimes they turn out the best. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on the next live webinars. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Aloha.